And now it's time for Ag Geek Speak with
GK Technologies,
Sarah and Jody.
In the fields again, I just can't wait to get in the fields again. The life I love is spreading potash for my friends, and I can't wait to get in the fields again. No, I can't wait to get in the fields again.
Welcome back to Ag Geek Speak, and in this week's episode, we are back with the one and the only Preston Sundeen. And last episode, please go back and check it out. We talked a lot about Preston's background in agriculture, how he got to where he is today in the world of agriculture, and his background with ADMS and precision ag. And we had a lot of fun talking about not only, Preston's background, but all the other fun things that come along with thinking about and applying precision agriculture and more places than just the field, so to speak. But this week, we are looking forward to continuing the conversation with Preston and really thinking about, what are some ways that we can instill confidence and the basics of precision agriculture knowledge in students and for those of us that are working with ADMS for the first time. And of course, the conversation will go off of that point too. But thank you so much for being with us again, Preston, and we're glad you're here.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Jody.
Yeah, so you have spent a lot of time in the classroom actually teaching precision agriculture concepts. And obviously you've taught a lot about GIS in as it gets applied into precision agriculture. But was that the only thing that you taught as far as precision agriculture, or were there other precision agriculture classes like outside of ADMS that you taught?
So I'll just kind of start back with the start of Lake Regis State College's Precision Ag program. And it got started back in 2012 via a grant to the federal government, saw precision ag as an up-and-coming discipline or field and wanted educational facilities to go and put a degree and a program together. And I came in its second year. And when the program started, it had more of a philosophy or a view on installing hardware. And that was one aspect that I had a little background in, but not as big. I was more agronomy. And so the program has agronomy, precision ag hardware, precision ag software, all as a component, all as key classes. And so I pretty much throughout I was a full-time instructor for 9 years, and I was a part-time instructor for 3. I pretty much taught every class that's been offered through here. So whether it's the GIS or the agronomy or the quote-unquote precision ag classes, which is another question on what is precision ag, and everybody has a different view of what it is. But when I visit with parents or students looking to come to the program, or with parents, I just kind of mentioned that I felt this program was as up to date, or as an agricultural program, as up to date with what is going on right now, boots on the ground, what farmers are doing, what agronomists are doing. And to me, that was precision ag. So yeah, I pretty much taught them all. So ask any question out there, GIS, agronomy, and I can kind of tell you what we're doing here.
So when you just mentioned that people have different definitions of what precision agriculture is, when you see that, and I feel that too, but maybe can you help us understand when people come in? Because I think sometimes the definition of precision agriculture can put blinders on people so that they can't really always see the whole thing. So can you help us understand what you mean when people say they've got different definitions?
Well, I'll tell you a story that I tell a lot of people. When I first got hired on, I was out somewhere, I can't remember where, and somebody asked me, what do you do? And I said, well, I just got hired a precision ag program instructor. And you go, oh, good. So you can teach them students then how to install this Outback GPS system on this 895 and then have it connect to my Dickie John on this air seeder. And there was a lot of other things I forgot now what was all in there, but it was that back 10 years ago, trying to make all of these different round knobs and square pegs and everything come together. And I went, yeah, no, that's not what we're going to. what asks, that is precision ag, absolutely. But out of 20 students, how many of them are going to be trying to retrofit all of that? So it means a lot of different things to different people. The GIS is pretty simple, I think, as precision ag and utilizing programs such as ADMS and looking at fields through remote sensing and satellite imagery, drone imagery, and that type of thing. On the agronomy side, I think it's utilizing the tools, and whether it's software, we use Farm QA in the program. We've used other apps as well, which try to expose the students to that. So I feel that's precision ag. If you're a crop consultant, I think you're involved in precision ag, but you're probably not installing Outbacks and 875 versatiles. You're using a particular app and you're uploading all your chemical recipes, and maybe the app is doing some of that for you, or maybe you're having to enter in the REI level and the rain fast or those types of things. When it came to the shop, that was probably the hardest part, was the shop projects. And so we put together a 4-row plot planter. We always planted 40 acres of field with it. And so that was kind of the hardware side. It was pretty much precision planting. And I would tell students, that the overall underlying fundamentals of this would go Case, John Deere, whatever you would have. But, this was just kind of putting together that troubleshooting, installing, CAN bus wiring system, hooking it up to a controller, some troubleshooting diagnostics of it. And then as applied data, we've always worked with in the program too. We used to use SMS. Now we do a little more with the operations center. FieldView, we've used FieldView in the past as well. So that's kind of my view of where precision comes into all those different aspects.
So I'm most curious. So like in my background, and this is just a me thing, I know the agronomy side, pretty good at the GIS side and the software side, but the hardest one for me is the hardware. What are the big things that you want students to take away going through those hardware classes? Like what are the things that you're trying to instill and would say that they're, they've learned what they need to go out once they're done with your hardware class?
Well, hardware was just incorporated in. We had a class just called Advanced Precision Ag, and that was a shop class, and the controllers were put in there as well. I think a lot part of the controllers, because there are so many of them, and we were asked over the years, so why aren't you teaching this specific one and this specific one? Well, they are complicated to teach on when you don't have a fleet of equipment. A lot of those controllers have to be plugged into the air seeder to be able to hit the air seeder functions in there. So I've been taught those classes for a couple of years, but when those were my classes, we have a kind of a little mock portable NH3 with a Raven cold flow that we can plug into. At that time, it was a John Deere controller and a Pro 700. We have a sprayer that can be plugged into a controller, and so it's the basics. It's setting up that controller for the implement and doing the dimensions, calibrating TCMs, trying to talk about different scenarios and how that would come into play and what you would have to do in the controller. I tried to implement Ag Talk a little bit, where I would go on Ag Talk and I would find a problem and I would just go, okay, that's kind of a entry level problem. Let me pass this off to the student. And some of those you don't really need to have the controller to try to figure out how to do it. I would just tell them, try to find a YouTube video that solves this problem. I don't know how many times I've tried to solve a problem. The first place I go is, has somebody else solved it and put it on YouTube? Or let's read through the manual and at least rule out these different venues or these different directions of the paths to go down. Can we just find the right answer in the troubleshooting guide? The tractor isn't receiving GPS. Well, let's look at the globe and look at what color lights it's flashing. We can do that just off a manual. So, and then try to get in conversation with the students. And if they're doing something on the farm to bring that into the classroom, or struggle to do something on the farm, or tell me a story about something on the farm that you guys had trouble fixing and then you got it solved. What was that? So, but hardware is the toughest part by far.
Yeah, like you said, right? Like if something needs to have an air seeder to attach to it to like turn on, or do 75% of its functionality, like it's not always feasible to have in. Or
And then what percent of the classroom is going back to actually working in to be the farmer and work and have to run the controller? We're a 2-year program. We offer a class or two in all these different aspects. And the one I didn't mention was business, which you'll have to get into, or econ. But how can we offer enough in those classes to give a student a background so when they attend the Case John Deere field day, or going there to learn the controller, or going to their open house, so they can follow along what the presenter's talking about, that they can ask good engaging questions. That was always kind of my litmus, was to make sure that when these students graduate, that they're probably not going to go start a map writing consultant business, but when they go attend the agronomy meeting, that they can follow the presenter and pick up on those key buzzwords and the topics that are being presented on.
that's a really good like litmus, or like just a outcome, like if that's the outcome, that makes it, I mean, it's still a challenge to put together the training to do that, but like, okay, this is the outcome. That's cool. I really like that. Okay.
Like we have a student attend an ADMS clinic. They're not going to be able to teach the class, but I want them to be able to sit in that class, have Kelly teaching them, and they ask intelligent, good, engaging questions. They can follow the train of thought, or where the instructor is trying to take them, and and be able to grow from that training, but have had the correct background to sit in there and be comfortable in that meeting or training.
And when it comes to something like hardware, it's interesting because every single company is doing something different with the way that their controllers come in and the way that they transcribe that information out to the equipment. And yet, at the end of the day, even though all of those different colors of equipment are doing things differently, there has to be some things that are similar in the goals to get things across. So if students can even get just enough experiences working with enough, they might not get every single little piece of the puzzle that's in the marketplace today, which, dear Lord, for the amount of equipment that's out there in the market, that would be almost impossible anyway. But if you could get a couple of the more popular brands that are out there and then have the chance to kind of touch and feel across each one, maybe you can see those commonalities of the things that need to happen to get that prescription rate translated over to the equipment and get it applied.
And I think, I really promote 2-year colleges. And I think that is an advantage of a 2-year college, is we could figure out how to implement a 2-3 classes on every single specific controller, but then is there value in that to that student? Or can we do just what you're saying, Sarah, go and give them the background in each of them, and they have their education in 2 years, which also has the liberal arts and the gen eds and all that other things, a good 2-year education, and then they can get out and they would have a feel or know where they're going into. Maybe they're going to go work for Case. Let Case or John Deere, whomever they go work for, give them their industry specific training. There's no sense of us trying to pretend to be as good on a controller as Case, John Deere. Come here, get a good background, and then where you're going to be employed, let them get you that specific, specialized, individualized training.
And to that point, I think it's really interesting to think about that, because so often in the real world, you go to school to get that foundation. But I remember when I got out of college, when I got out of agronomy college, and I was out there working in the field and actually working in ag retail, the steep learning curve of actually being in the business, right?
Yep.
And that's something you just can't get in the classroom. Now, I value everything that I got in the classroom. It was that really big foundation, but I needed to be out there to learn the rest of it.
And
Don't go on.
go ahead, Preston.
Well, I was just going to say, I appreciate my 4-year degree, and I think 4-year degrees are very valuable. But for the students that are coming here for a 2-year degree, and then you can take, like what you're saying there, Sarah, with that steep learning curve, take your first 2 years, especially in agriculture, as that's further education. I mean, your first 2 years in retail or whatever it is that you're doing, going back to the farm, I mean, you're going to learn so much, and you have to learn so much in them 2 years, that to me, that's just an extension of your education. And hopefully you got a good background to really take advantage of those next 2 years to soak it all in. And but just like any other industry, you always have to be a student. I mean, if you're going to succeed in any industry, you're always a student.
You mentioned this in the first episode too, Preston, and here too, like building those critical thinking skills, being able to figure out where on YouTube can I find this? Is this 5-minute YouTube video very shortly into it? Can you tell right away, is this thing going to answer what I'm looking for? Right? Like, I think back to when I got out of grad school, that's what I took out of it, as like, I went to grad school to become really good at Googling stuff. Like, it sounds crude, but like you get the background of like what's baloney and what's going to bring value to me. And you mentioned that, like, that's what you're trying to instill in the students, is how do you find what you're looking for? How can you tell that this thing that you're trying to do, where can you find the information to make it go? Right? It's not necessarily that, yeah, we're going to learn every single controller, but how do we have enough of the basics and enough like thought about thinking about this that we can get it done and find the information to get it done.
The information to know how to query for information.
Yes. God, I mean, I feel like that's such a 2025 thing, but right? Like,
Yep.
In the world that we live in, like, that is what we as humans are, right? Like, a lot of what we do in the United States for work is querying for information and then implementing that information. And you've got to be good at critical thinking to do that.
Especially in this line of work, because it's so vast. It's if you're going to say that you're somewhat involved in precision ag, whatever title that happens to be, an agronomist on the equipment side, is people are going to be like, oh, you're the doctor, you know everything. Here's this question, here's that question, and I make fun of, or I don't make fun of, I make light of that in the classroom all the time. And if we're doing a chemical recipe problem, I will provide the student with 10 times the information that they need, because that's exactly how that farmer is going to present it to you. And I'll give them a question, and we'll do it on the board, or they'll have to do it, and they'll be like, do we even need to use that part? I'm like, nope, but I'm giving it to you anyway, just to make sure. Yep. If you say you're a chemical salesperson, you're going to have all these questions, and they are going to give you the life story of the question. They're going to give you way more information than you need, more than likely.
Probably while everybody's drinking a cup of coffee or something. So let's go over and talk a little bit more about ADMS in the actual classroom for a second. So there is so much with it, and really ADMS is learning how to take GIS and apply it to agriculture. So within the parameters of that, where do you even start?
Start with learning how to run a computer. And that's the other thing that I tell the class right away when we start ADMS, that one of the goals of this class is just computer knowledge. And so where do I start? I say, ADMS is located on your C drive. and here is the folder structure. And then we open it up and we go through the settings, and we're able to talk about, just, are we switching from lat and long to UTM, and have a conversation on that, and pixels, and then we start with boundaries and what kind of data that is, and then we go to USDA Geospatial Data Gateway, and we download NAIP, we download county data, PLSS. Every people that if I have students listening to this, they'll laugh because I always, well, what does PLSS stand for? That's the requirement to graduate the egg program at Lake Region. That's the graduating question. But then so they get the information in a zipped folder or in an email, and now we have to download the zip folder, uncompress it, and I write on the board. Now you're going to move this to your C drive, GK data, county data, create a folder called Ramsey, put that. So we start at the very basics and at the beginning.
So you are actually having them download data.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the Great Wide. Do you have them also download like LiDAR and a little bit of satellite imagery too?
Satellite imagery. Did up until the last couple of years when Glovis kind of redid their website. Right. And then the teacher is always trying to learn 10 minutes before the class starts. And when they had that Glovis remake, we go and look at Glovis. I tell them where they're getting their information. And then we do utilize the consultants package that GK Technology so graciously gives us as a university. And I let students know that if you're looking at doing it without that particular package, this is where you would go to download it. But we do download satellite imagery through the consultants package. We download NAIP and PLSS data traditionally, though.
That's I never really thought about it until you mentioned it. Helping students how to run a computer, and that sounds counterintuitive in the year 2025.
It's not.
But exactly. I learned so much more about how to run a computer working for GK than I ever thought I would.
So we'd go and recruit from different high schools, and as post-secondary educators, we'd get together with high school educators, ag educators a lot. And one of the a common question was, what can we do at the high school level to prepare students more for your ag classes? And I could tell what answers they were looking for. They wanted farming questions and all this specific things, and I'm like, computers. Think you got to crawl before you can run. And there's a lot of, and I see it kind of within education. It seems like college, throughout education, it seems like there's momentum or movement to put college classes in high school and high school classes in grade school. My kids were in 5th, 6th grade. They'd come home and they were learning about Middle East history. And I'm like, you're doing this at 5th and 6th grade? But there's kind of that going. And I think we're, to a degree, missing the boat on some of this stuff, that in high school, you can have a lot of knowledge and learn a lot of things that aren't specific to a discipline, just, computers. And now with AI, and that's a whole new discussion on whether or not is AI good or bad. And it's just like anything else out there. It's how you utilize it. And I think there should be more teaching on how to let AI benefit your day, how to let AI help you write a paper, and how to let AI help you with your math. And I had to put together something with a Half-Life the other day. And so I threw it in ChatGPT because it printed me out a perfect explanation that I could utilize in a very formal setting. And I could go step by step through how it did it. And it was amazing. Simple process, but there are the correct formulas, and ChatGPT spit it out for me in 30 seconds and was able to shave many minutes of time.
It's so funny because the most recent podcast that Sarah and I have had at this time, and it's mid-June when we're recording this, is the first part of the conversation we have with our colleague Travis Yike about what AI is and how do we view it in precision agriculture, because people think that it's out here to take away farmers' jobs, but really we need to rethink about what is it, how does it work, and how can we make us better. And I think it goes back to critical thinking skills, right? Like if you know enough about the process itself, and then also know enough about what kind of questions you can ask to help you, right? You now can use the software use the the product, the thing, instead of having it viewed as an enemy to what you're trying to do. Right. And I even I see these college debates about using AI in college. And I think that every college professor would want you not to have it write your paper, but help you get to what you're
Yep.
doing faster, or help you learn more about what you're trying to write about. Yeah. But like you said, it all goes back to mindset about how we're using these things and bringing them into our lives.
It's pretty interesting. So here's a question for you. When you're working with these students and you get them when they're coming in right
Yep.
out of high school many times, sometimes other walks of life too, but when they graduate from that 2-year program, what does success look like? What is successful for a student who's graduating out of your program?
It's a great question. A lot of times we look at success from the academic side as job placements, or we follow up with a survey a year after graduation, and are they all fully employed? I think that I don't like going down that road for the question you ask. I'm trying to think of this a little bit more in depth for what is success. I think that the students, when they graduate from here, and they could go back to the farm, they could be going into industry, they could be going on to a 4-year degree, that a successful student is furthering their education, no matter what aspect that is, that they're applying the information that they learned, that they feel they are succeeding. And then through the program, we talk a lot about, that I know a lot of our students are going back to rural America, and we talk just in classroom discussions and different things about just being involved in communities. And so I think that, I hope that students can take their background here and apply it to more than just the field of agriculture, that they can take their computer skills and apply it towards being on a board, or they can be in the Precision Ag Club and then apply that to running a meeting on the city council. And so I guess, I don't necessarily think that all the students have to be chairperson of the city council leaving the program to be successful, but those types of things, that they feel they have the capability to do that. And I see graduated students quite often, and it's fun listening to them talk about what they're doing. And I think I can gauge the success on the emotion and the excitement that they have when they are telling me about what they're currently doing. And I get a lot of that. I don't know if it was on the last episode or on this one, we're talking about graduate students Snapchatting me back on different precision ag things. And you can tell they're having fun, and that's successful, I think. Out of the box answer, I think.
I think that's a great answer, though. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Hopefully that they've got that basis for critical thinking. Hopefully they can go and, work really hard to try to, figure out how to make things work, and they enjoy it. And then, of course, like you said, they're having fun doing it and contributing to society. Yep. And passionate about it. So it's pretty fun. That's really fun. Preston, I just want to thank you so much for all of your time visiting with us. Preston has been a great guy to work with. He does call not very often with questions because he knows how to run the software pretty well. Usually when he calls, he's stumping. It's a game of stump the chump, and I got to really look for answers.
I like to figure out how to do things on my own, but I have to call in just enough to be able to make sure that they know who I am. So, who's he? You got to knock on the door just often enough to make sure that that you don't lose your place, I guess, is what I meant by that.
You could never forget who you are, Preston. You're so important in North Dakota precision agriculture. So thank you so much for your time today. It has been great visiting with you both on the last episode and this one. If you didn't get a chance to check the last episode, I highly recommend going back and checking it out. He even talks about applying precision agriculture into lawn mowing. It's super fun. So thanks again. And with that, at GK Technology, we've got a map
and an app for that.
No, I can't wait to get in the fields again.
Let the geeks at GK Technology help you with your agricultural data. Their agronomists know agriculture. When it comes to creating soils and zone maps to maximize yields in your fields, you can trust the people with decades of experience in site-specific agriculture. Everyone at GK Technology has a background in agriculture, so they know what makes a farm run, and they speak your language. The geeks at GK Technology have a map and an app for that.